schedule just came out. Um, I get so excited. It feels like Christmas Day every time there is a schedule out. I don't know
Yes,
if you've
sir.
had a chance to kind of go into it in depth or look at it, more than once. But after looking at it, oh, here we go. How many games do you think the Pistons could win this season?
Whew. I'm one of those guys who believes that Kay Cunningham is going to take that leap. I believe that the Pistons off season, though I would say, hey, you know what, I would have liked them to do more. I think this is dependent on the type of leap Kay Cunningham can take. And I think he can take the type of leap to have the Pistons in the conversation. I'm not saying doing it, but in the conversation of being a 50-win team. I really do. I'm not saying that the East is something that's completely wide open, but I do believe that the East is something that is a lot more competitively attainable for Kay Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. And I don't believe that they're going to take that much of a dip from shooting. I believe that instead of being as centralized on a very heavy volume shooter, I believe that they're going to be a lot more balanced as it relates to their outside shooting now. It's going to help them. I really do. But I think they're going to be in the conversation for that 50.
So I saw the under over a few weeks ago, and it was at 45 and a half, and they won 44 games. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, they could have won 50 games last season. Like, there are a lot of games that were, turnovers, went down to the wire.
You think
Uh,
Kay Cunningham just sitting out?
yeah, there's a couple of games that he sat out. I'm looking
That's
at the
my guy.
schedule. Yeah, it's
No
a dope.
Ivy.
Yeah, Noah Sard to start the season. Like I'm looking at this
I got it
schedule.
right.
I'm looking at this team, and I'm like, it's probably a 50-win basketball team. And
That,
a lot of people are like,
get me fired up.
they're like, yeah, like I don't see it. I think we're worse. I think Atlanta's going to leap us. I'm like, I just don't see it. I don't trust Atlanta. Like you have to prove it to me that you're better than Detroit. I think Orlando, a lot of people when they hear Orlando, they kind of roll their eyes. But I think some Pistons fans, maybe they forget when they were healthy, really early on of the season, they were like top three, top four. I think adding Desmond Bain, trading him in for KCP is a huge upgrade in itself.
Yep.
I think Orlando's going to be a very good team, depending if they can stay healthy. If they're not healthy,
100.
they're probably a play-in team at the best. But I think this is a 50-win basketball team. I think the changes they made, I think some people look at this team on paper and it's not Malik Beasley, it's not Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder. And I think some people, they don't like change, and I get it. I think Duncan Robinson is that motion shooter that Malik Beasley is. Is he going to hit 300 threes? I don't know. He's hit 200 plus threes multiple times in his career. It seems like every time we sign free agents, they have like their best year of their careers. I can't explain it. Like Blake Griffin getting traded had his best year of his career. Malik Beasley had a resurgence. Has a franchise record with
Yeah.
3-pointers made with the Detroit Pistons, second behind Anthony Edwards last year. I like Karis LeVert. I think he's going to be very versatile. I honestly think he's probably going to be one of the most important Pistons on this roster, not named Kate Cunningham personally, because I think the role that he's going to have, he's going to just be one of those
Yeah, no,
versatile.
explain this. I want to hear it.
Yeah, he's going to be so versatile. And I think who's going to benefit the most with Karis LeVert is Jaden Ivey, because Karis LeVert to me is the perfect type of toolsy wing type of player that you want to pair next to an off guard player like a Jaden Ivey. So I really think him being healthy is going to be very important. But I'm thinking 50 wins, man. I'm like you.
I see what you mean here too. Like those odd pairings where they used to have like Ivy and Beasley or Ivy and Sasser. Think about what that looks like with Izzy and Karis LeVert. Somebody who you know can get his buckets at the rim, in the mid range, or from behind the arc, and can defend as well. Like obviously with Karis LeVert, you're just talking about health, but because of the type of workload he will or won't have, they can manage that type of stuff. I would hope that they start the season lighter than they end the season with them. Let them get ramped up maybe after about a couple months, because I do believe they have that type of depth there. And you probably want to get a good look at a guy like a Marcus Sasser. I know that there's a difference as it relates to the physicality and the size, and that's something that Trajan Langdon remarked on, that at that position they're a bigger team than they were. The players they replaced, were smaller. The guys are bringing in, they're going to be able to defend basically a multitude of positions. And so I do believe that they got more versatile, both defensively and more balanced offensively. And I think that the guys they have, they're going to still bring that same try-hard approach that we did see from guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. And, for about the first 3 quarters of the season, you saw Malik Beasley, especially to start it, diving on the floor and things of that nature and really trying to lead that charge. I do believe that they got enough in Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert, as well as you still got Uncle Tobias here.
Yeah.
They got enough in the vet department to, I think, which is the most important thing you're going to hear me continue to harp on, adequately support Cade Cunningham. We're not talking about a guy who's the best player on the team. We've had those years, right? And those guys maybe are all-stars, maybe are not. Hi, Andre Drummond. I still like you. But let's be real. We got a guy who we now see popping up as who are the top 5 American, MVPs of the future. Cade Cunningham is popping up in these things. Shout out ESPN. This guy has a chance to be a superstar, and he wants to be that. And so that's why I continue to go back to, I think that this team is one that's ready-made to mesh with the type of player that Cade Cunningham is. A lot of downhill action. These guys are able to relocate and shoot. These guys are able to pick and pop. They're able to do things that he was able to do with Tim Hardaway and Malik Beasley. What's that? The pick and roll with those guys. I loved it when Tim Hardaway would be the guy sometimes to come up and set the pick, because then you see the defense really not know how to react. Sometimes guarding the wings, they're not used to guarding a roller. So all of a sudden you got Cade Cunningham, who's already an elite playmaker, an elite facilitator, an elite scorer at least 2 of those levels, and good at the third level. And then you're also having a guy who can pick and pop or cut. Like, now you're running these sets with Duncan Robinson. Are you kidding me? You're leaving Duncan Robinson open because you got a double team Cade? Oh, yeah. No. You're stepping off of Jalen Duren for the backside hope. It's good problems that they got right now. And I think they do become more balanced of a team. They have a few more shooters to depend on.
I also think that they'll have multiple ball handlers too. You're not going to have
that too. Yep.
Cade Cunningham, bring the ball up the court every time. We've seen Point Asar. That was kind of like an experiment that I loved last year because teams just did not know how to defend with his quickness, his strength, and his burst. He's just a blur to stay in front of. I think Karis LeVert can kind of have that same effect where, you can just give him some on-ball reps and you can have, Jaden Ivey curling off a screen. I think Duncan Robinson is a shooter. I think a lot of people know that he is, but I think the one thing that I'm really interested in is how is his chemistry going to be with Jalen Duren? Can he make Jalen Duren a better passer out of dribble handoff situations like he did with Bam Adebayo? Like, I've been talking about that this summer. Like, Duncan Robinson is coming in. Yeah, he's coming in as a vet. Like, he's the similar age to Tobias Harris. Like, I think Duncan Robinson could really help a lot of the bigs with their passing, with dribble handoffs, screen setting, where he likes the ball. Like, I know a lot of people are just looking at this team on paper and they don't think it's as good. I saw a team last year without their second leading scorer be in each and every game. And that's because of JB Bickerstaff and the believability with, all these players on this team buying into the message.
Bro, you know what? And I love exactly what you're saying about Jalen Duren. To kind of tie that together, we saw improvements in his game this year, even defensively as a rim protector, paint protector. You still want greater improvement as he continues to grow as a player. But you heard these guys talk about the messages that they got from JB Bickerstaff, the buy-in, and how easy it was, and how he made the information that much more easy to understand for him. And that, to me, is like, we got a coach's coach. I remember the first press conference. Rod Beard, shout out Rod Beard, formerly of the Detroit News, now down at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, senior sports editor. We went there because we had the pod the next day. So he was like, you know what, bro? I'm going to go down there. And then he was like, you know what? I'm staying for all of it, bro, for the scrum, for all of it. He's like, bro, he's electric. He's a coach's coach. It wasn't like he was there to try and win anything. He was just there literally just, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. Y'all know who I am. Y'all saw me do it over there. If this message is too hard for you, kick rocks. That's when I began to realize what happened in Cleveland when he was there wasn't necessarily a JB Bickerstaff thing. It might have been people who couldn't necessarily get with his style. But you got Jalen Duren stepping to the podium saying, what? You know what? I got to be real with y'all. I was on some softish. What young player steps to a podium and does that?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? But he stepped to the podium and did that. And he talked about the fact that, you know what? Yeah, we talk about this stuff in the locker room. We trust J.B. Bickerstaff. I can see J.B. Bickerstaff probably telling people in that Cleveland locker room stuff. And Ty Jerome's probably not a Piston because he couldn't handle that type of stuff. You know, shout out Cleveland. I remember there was Ty Jerome could potentially be a Piston. Nah. When you look at Jalen Duren, you look at some of these players here, I think that they're able to buy into what J.B. Bickerstaff is saying because of some of the losing that they had prior, but also how real he's been able to deliver it. These guys are now starting to get success. And this thing is going to be built on those young players. I've said this from the beginning. Why are people bullish on Orlando Magic right now? Is it because they're vets? Is it because they went and made a splash, like brought in 2 or 3 stars? Which I'll be honest with you, I've been guilty of saying, hey, go out there and get me a star too. No. People are bullish on Orlando Magic right now simply because of the players that they drafted to be stars, Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero. And they went and they were able to make one savvy move to be able to bolster that with Desmond Bane. The Pistons should be able to depend on, if healthy, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, Kay Cunningham. They should be able to depend on these players to not just be kind of serviceable, but to also be your stars and your superstars as it relates to Kay. Your players that maybe can become all-star level, like Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren. You need these guys to get to that level. So saying putting this responsibility on them, is it too much? No, it's time. Cade is on that max deal. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, what are they going to be doing at the end of the season? They're going to be asking for another deal. So it's like it's time now. Go out there and prove it. What did Cade do before the deal kicked in? He went out there and put up a hell of a season. Hell of a season.